as a species isolated ourselves from our nature that we were born within. We've also isolated ourselves from one another. We have used technology to isolate ourselves from our own families. And so we are isolating ourselves and therefore increasing the entropy or chaos within our systems. And as a species, you can just see the chaos just like threatening every day to blow us apart. And yet we keep coming back together again in a syntropy moment, in the opposite of entropy. Syntropy is the spiritual desire to reorganize pattern within chaotic systems. And so we have a syntropy tendency because we're not physical beings. We're spiritual beings here on purpose, ready to met out the most beautiful joy and the most beautiful love to one another. And we have to do a syntropy moment to do that. And to do that, we have to become non-isolated. And so what gets me excited about, something like Black Lives Matter is the English words there, Black Lives Matter, sound very isolating and sound disconnecting, and they can be used that way. But what's really happening, I believe, in the energy below those words is let's reconnect the minorities that have been suppressed and systematically and systemically, abused. Yeah. If we reconnect that, we are going to see a syntropy moment for all of the species. And so when we see a horrific event, whether it's a Vietnam War in South Asia or, massacre of Black people in the streets, whatever it is, if we rush our attention there and say, this is the horrific results of disconnect and isolation, let's reconnect with love to these people. And there will be a syntropy event within our species where we reorganize, we decrease the chaos for our reconnection to that one individual that became isolated. Yeah. And we see this in our cancer patients in clinic every day. It's a year and a half into a cancer journey where the patient has been taught that this cancer is part of their body, that is a result of isolation and loneliness and therefore increase in chaos within that single cellular system that's now threatening the whole organism. And if you help them love that organism, that cell system back into their body, stop fearing the cancer, stop having paranoia over the cancer, instead see this as the greatest gift that they've ever had because it has reorganized their whole world view. And they are loving differently, they're tasting differently, they're seeing differently. Beautiful. It's reorganized their whole reality. And a year and a half in, they say, this cancer was the greatest gift that I have ever been given. It has totally transformed me. That's where we are as a species now. We have our terminal cancer diagnosis, but we can step off of our hospice situation by reconnecting, and we will heal so deeply. And as you said, so rapidly. We will so rapidly heal as a species when we reconnect. And I want you guys to, in the audience, to think about what you've been feeling the last 4 months and then transmute that. Because I think there's a lot of paranoia, there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of sense of us and them. They are inflicting us with this thing, or they are telling us these lies. We are creating those lies. We are a species that is in a chaotic, entropic environment. We have created the chaos within us. We have created the chaos of our minds through our isolation. What you are feeling is not us and them. What you are feeling is us in chaos. And if we reconnect, we will feel singularity. We will feel this extraordinary thing where there is no loneliness left. There is no isolation left. And we will create so much differently, whether it's the buildings we live in, whether it's the love we make, we will create so differently when we are connected and the syntropy happens. And it will be a beautiful thing. And there will be we'll find out there is no conspiracy theory. There was only isolation. There was only loneliness. There was no deep state as it was. There was just a deep mind that was isolated, and it was a human mind that was isolated. And we created that. We did that. We are part of that. The deep state is our subconscious, maybe, of a species that's in isolation. And the subconscious is chewing us up, just like my subconscious does when I allow myself to be lonely from my wife and loved ones. When I isolate, I can self-abuse myself. I can come up with the darkest stuff in the universe through that subconscious mind. We see that reflected in what's often referred to as the deep slate or the cabal. I hear all these words. It's like, that sounds like my subconscious. That sounds like what we're doing. We are creating this thing. And if we choose to reconnect, it will dissolve instantaneously because it cannot exist in a place of syntropy.
Beautiful. So through this great tribulation that we're clearly moving, we move into the absolution, and the absolution can only ever be a repair from the trial of separation into the next chapter of our spiritual unfoldment. Dr. Zach Bush, thank you so much. Such a beautiful conversation. Thank you.
It was an incredible fifth dimensional conversation, birthing us into this new earth that we are all creating. Fucking brilliant, Zach. I cry every time I hear you. And Sasha, you just, the added dimension to that. Thank you. My heart is so full, and I know everyone listening in that this is going to reach so many people. So I thank you both, and I encourage you. And thank you also, Zach, for making space for the feminine, the voice. I mean, bringing in the Syntropy and this conversation of the feminine voice. We have formed a Mama's Alliance, and this voice is being heard through this platform. We want to encourage everyone, whether they're doctors and scientists or philosophers or concerned citizens, but definitely the mamas, to show up, get in the conversation, because we want to hear your voice. So that's the invitation. And I thank you for making space for that. So we encourage everyone, if you haven't already registered for the World Health Sovereignty Summit on June 20th, 21st, we'll put the links below. It's reclaimyourlives.com. And we want to hear from you. So thank you both. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So great.
Thank you, Imani. Thank you, Zach. Lovely seeing you again.
Thank you, Sasha. Thank you for the conversation.